What is up, everyone? It's still cold, as you guys can see. Alright, so today I figured that I would review the movie Spiral. It's the new Saw chapter, basically, and it's the one with Chris Rock. And yeah, I watched it recently, and I figured you guys might want to watch it, know if it's worth it, so let's review this thing. Alright, so Spiral was. Alright, just to give you guys an idea of. If you guys saw the first, I want to say, three Saw movies, those were good, you know? We saw some new stuff, we saw some really intriguing stuff, and all of the Saw movies after that, you know, they all had really well written endings, stuff that we didn't see coming, which was awesome. You know, that's one thing that I can say that the Saw franchise really does well. They end the movie in such a way that you go, what the you guys know what I was about to say. Did I just see? And I was gonna say fuck. Anyway, so you know that was really cool for me to experience watching Saw for the first time. You know, and that's what kind of kept me intrigued. I mean, Saw 3D, the final chapter, was probably one of the shittiest movies ever made, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That was just a really bad movie. I mean, the blood was pink, the intestines looked like somebody went to the butcher shop, bought a bunch of sausage, and just spilled that shit on the floor. It was so bad. It wasn't a good one. And you know, as the Saw movies continued, I think they kind of ran out of ideas at one stage, and they were just like, okay, what can we do to just freaking shock people? And you know, that's where some of the movies came from, and they were meh. You know, for me personally, I thought Jigsaw wasn't a bad movie. I did not see a lot of things coming in that movie, and that's something that I like. You know, if a movie surprises me with a story, that's cool. So you know, I thought Jigsaw was not a bad addition to the Saw franchise. Um, Going into Spiral, I know that Chris Rock actually presented this idea to Lionsgate, and that's why he was writer and producer as well. The one thing that I want to say kind of bothered me about Spiral is the opening kill. That's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to say anything that's going to give a spoiler about how it happens or anything about that, but it was stupid. I can't phrase it another way. It was really kind of dumb. But don't let that stop you from watching it. It's just the opening kill, you know. Um, I thought I was in for a really really bad movie when I saw that, but it gets better. Continuing on with, you know, after that kill, the story does actually progress into something that's pretty interesting. You know, it's not the first or the second Saw movie at all, not at all. And the one factor in this movie that kind of bothered me a little bit was the fact that a lot of times it didn't really feel like you were watching a Saw movie. It felt like you were watching something kind of like Saw, but you know, it didn't have that same vibe. It's the soundtrack was completely different to a lot of Saw movies, and that's the first thing that kind of got me thinking, okay, am I still watching Saw? And the second thing is, you know, it's a lot of the characters kind of didn't feel like Saw characters. You know, if you saw the other movies, you and if you see this one, you guys will understand what I mean. Um, so let's break it up into a couple of parts and rate it and give it the overall rating. But you know, like I said, the story does not really feel so much like a Saw movie as the others did. So when it comes to the storyline, there's a lot of things in this movie that are just bloody obvious that's going to happen. You know, it's you watch it and you think, okay, That's going to happen. And then it does. So it's a little bit predictable. Not like the other Saw movies where you think you saw something coming, and then the moment happens and it's completely off base from what you were thinking. That's something that this movie lacked a little bit for me personally. It's kind of predictable. The ending of the movie is a small twist. My wife didn't completely see the twist coming at the end. I had a feeling of what was going on, and I was 100% right at the end of the movie. When the ending came, I was like, yeah, it's pretty much what I thought. So I don't really like a movie that's predictable like that. I want something that completely screws with your mind at the end of the movie. You're like, what the hell? How did this happen? I like movies like that, and this movie failed miserably on that end for me personally. I think the story, I would rate it about a 6. I can't really go higher than a 6 because it's very mediocre. When it comes to the directing on this movie, it's the same director as the second Saw movie. It was okay, I guess, for what it was. I can't really give it higher than a 6 as well. I mean, like I said, the story is very mediocre, and I think a lot of the stuff involved with making the movie was mediocre. So that was meh. So yeah, the directing I'd give a 6. When it comes to the acting, excuse me, there's 2 actors in this movie that stood out for me. Chris Rock really surprised me in this movie. I'm used to seeing him in very comedic roles, very funny roles, stuff that, he says or does something and you just laugh yourself into fucking oblivion. That's what we know and love about Chris Rock. Watching this movie, he really surprised me with the fact that he can actually be a very serious and a very well-rounded actor. That's the one thing that I really liked about this, I think Chris did a really good job as I want to say the kind of serious and a little bit hurt detective that he played. He was very good in this movie. I think he did a good job. Although he doesn't feature very big in this movie, Samuel L. Jackson is just a great actor. That's the one thing that Sam is. I mean, even the really shitty movies that he's been in, there's nothing wrong with his acting ever, and it's the same thing in this movie, and his very famous motherfucker is in this movie. I mean, you can't watch an R-rated Sam Jackson movie and not hear him say that. So, I enjoyed the fact that Sam was in this movie. He was really good. His small part in this movie was top notch. So, those 2 stood out in this movie. So I think the acting, Chris Rock was really good. Sam was really good. The other people were okay for what they were cast for. So because those 2 stood out, I can give the acting a 7 out of 10 in this movie. It was not bad at all. Now coming to rate the movie as a whole package, I feel that there's a lot of things in this movie that kind of downplayed the fact that you're watching a Saw movie. I feel that, if the story was maybe written a little differently, maybe the story had a bit more meat around the bone, I almost want to say, it would have been better. But for the movie, what it was, the directing, what it was, the acting, what it was, and the ending of the movie, how it played out, I really can't rate this movie higher than a 6. I almost want to say a 5.5 to a 6 because it's really not on par with the Saw franchise that we've come to know and love. That being said, it's also not as ridiculous as some of the other movies that are getting made and people actually tend to watch. So, yeah, I think a 6 is the highest I can go for this movie. But if you guys have seen the movie, Let me know in the comments what you thought. If you guys haven't seen the movie and you are going to see it, after you've seen it, let me know what you guys thought. Remember, these are just my opinions, but yeah, I don't think this was such a brilliant movie. If you guys want to go follow my social media links, I'd really appreciate that. You guys would help me out a lot by just clicking follow on all of those things. If you guys haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. I'd love to hear from you guys. If there's anything specific you want me to review, let me know in the comments. Doesn't matter if it's a series or a movie, I'll do it. And yeah, I will see you guys next week or the week after with another cool movie review. And until then, have an awesome week or 2 weeks or however long it takes. See you guys again soon. Peace.